Hello, everyone. Welcome to Progress Junior Golf with Live Sport Now and the England Golf Young Ambassadors. My name is Steve Jackson, and this is Ian Waterhouse.
Hello, Steve Jackson. Hello, everybody. How are we this week?
Not too bad, yeah. Trying to stay warm, as you can appreciate. It's a bit chilly, isn't it? It's suddenly got a little bit colder than in recent weeks, but trying to stay warm. Hopefully, this will keep us warm this evening because plenty to talk about. This is the 25th Progress Junior Golf podcast. It's all about junior golf, this podcast. It's about the next generation of golfers. It's about getting more boys and girls playing the game of golf. Now, if you remember, Ian, back to those first two podcasts that we did, they were about the work that we did, both of us working in media within the junior golf industry. Now, the third podcast, that was when we started picking a subject and started talking about different subjects within junior golf. Well, that was about college golf in the US. Now we're going to touch upon this again. This time, though, we're going to look at golf in the UK. You remember about the one that we did in the US? Yep. We had Ladies European Tour professional Megan McLaren was on the show. By the way, congratulations to Megan, who just this last week or so, the Ladies European Tour finished, and she finished as the top Briton on the LET this year. So really well done to her. Won one tournament, missed out on a couple of other wins as well, lost in a couple of playoffs. I mean, how unlucky is that this year? So really well done to Megan though, and hopefully fingers crossed that she'll keep on that form and possibly be somewhere in and about those Solheim Cup standings for next year. But anyway, that's Megan. That's another subject. But like I say, so we covered the US college golf. So let's have a now look at the college golf in the UK, because as we all know, the cost of living crisis at the moment making it more difficult financially, to go over to the opposite side of the Atlantic to study and play. So it might not be quite such an ideal option to do. So what have we got on these shores? So to help us out on the show, we're going to have England Golf Young Ambassadors Emily Furniss and Jen Myers. Emily, who's been to college, been to university in the UK, she went to Bournemouth. So she's been through the process, so she can obviously come with and explain exactly what happened and the things that she went through. And Jen is at the moment, I think in a year's time, next year, she'll be looking to go to university. So she's going through that process at the moment of looking at the options, you see. So we've got a different point of view there.
Hopefully she's made it back from Sterling by now to make it on the show. Hopefully.
Yeah, we will find out the two choices, which are her main two choices, and they are literally, no joke, they are literally the opposite ends of the country.
I've just given you one. I've just given you everybody one.
Yes, so Sterling is Scotland, so think south, and you're probably going to go about as far down
way
as
south.
You can, way south. So those two options which she's looking at. Now, also a friend of yours is going to be on the podcast. We've got pre-recorded interview with 2020 Pro Tour co-founder Chris Hanson. He went to college many years ago, it has to be said, to Myscow College in Preston.
You're brave, Steve, saying that.
Well, no, he said it, not me.
When
he is, well, look, at the end of the day, he's had a very successful career as a professional golfer, played on the European Tour, and then has obviously since gone on now to co-found the 2020 Pro Tour. So, and he talks, very much about how his college golf, not only did it help his golfing career, but also helped his business career as well. So fascinating talking to him. We're going to get his thoughts as well. And we're also going to hear from Aspire to Be Academy of Sport Head of Performance, Jake Richardson. That's basically, they are University of Warwick. They're based at Coventry. So obviously we're going to hear some of his thoughts on the kind of issues that they look for, the kind of people who they look for, they want to join their college course. So slightly different angle there. Right, that's going to be the podcast.
Steve, before we get on, a bit of housekeeping for everybody as well. Don't forget, we are live across social media on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, LinkedIn. Do get your comments in as well. The live chat is open. Best place to do that is Live Sport Now on YouTube. There is a link in the body of this broadcast. If you're watching it, head on over. We've got people commenting already as well. So if you do head over, comment in the live chat, we can show it on screen just like this. Some nice comments coming in as well. Evening, guys. A quick hello on my way out for a walk. That actually, Steve, is a good friend of mine who organises Gritfest arm wrestling competition. But we have had Matt Williams, PGA Pro. He's commented a bit of a clue here as well. This might help Jen a little bit. He's a former Bournemouth Uni player and coach. Great setup for UK University Golf. Thanks for that, Matt. Do keep your comments coming in. We can see them. Keep them clean, of course, and we can show them on screen. Over to you.
we've given away the other university that Jen might be considering going to, haven't we? There as well. So bit of a clue there. So
sorry, Jen.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Right. Anyway, first things first. Let's do the junior golf news.
The news.
One major competition to cover, really. That was the Junior European Open, the 30th running of this tournament. It took place at Hacienda Links Golf Resort in Spain. 160 boys and girls took part in this event, so massive competition. If you remember, we spoke about this in the last podcast, because it was actually taking place the week. I think the final day was actually the day after we had our last podcast. Interesting format of this competition: 5 rounds of golf. The best 2 scores from the opening 4 days make the cut, and then the final day counts, kind of thing. Boys and girls separate competitions. The boys competition was won by Luke Metcalf from Walton Heath. So out of those first 4 rounds, 78 and 76, he went into the final day. I think he was a few shots off the lead, but shot a fantastic score, 68 on the final day. He won by 2 from Edward Featherstone and Andreas Roman. They shot 71 and 74 on the final day, though. So, but really good competition. Actually, there's some good scores as well, and also very, very close. I think of the top, just looking at there, the top 7 or 8 players separated by just 3 shots. So as if the format, which when we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago, unusual format, but it kind of works, doesn't it? Because it keeps you interested if you have an absolute mare one day. And at the same time, if you do score some really good scores, it means you know you're going to be at the top of the leaderboard, kind of thing. So
everybody has a bad day, don't they? So you don't want to be wiped out of the tournament just for having a bit of one-off.
Yes, and as we saw with that final round, I mean, a great round of 68 to win it as well. So win it with a top score. Girls competition. Now this is the interesting one, because youngest ever winner of this competition, 13-year-old Sophia Clafton from Wallasey Golf Club. Her score 74, 79 and 76 on the final day. She won by 3 shots by someone who we know very well. We covered her winning one of the Fowler Series events last year, Lily Rose Hunt. Finished second in that competition. In third place, actually was leading after the joint leading after the opening round, was Katie Stevens. So well done to everyone who played in that competition over in Spain.
Katie Stevens, by the way, she's played 2020 Pro Tour.
Is that right?
Yeah,
there you go. Right. 3 other stories then to tell you about. Three hole-in-ones to tell you about. 3 slightly different hole-in-one stories to tell you about. First one then, and what about this? I think we might have a scorecard here to tell you to illustrate how good a round of golf this is.
North Berwick, I take it.
That's the boy, yeah. The North Berwick Golf Club, a golf course which I've played, and not an easy golf course. How about that for a scorecard? Jack McDonald with a 10 under par 61, opened, as you can see there, 8 consecutive threes. Then he parred the 9th hole, so going out in a mere 7 under par. Started the back 9 pretty well, got a hole in 1, then pars all the way in, and then birdied the last hole. So what a fantastic round of golf there from Jack McDonald. Absolutely, yeah. Right, another hole in 1 to tell you about. This one is on the DP World Tour. Teenager though, Northern Ireland teenager Tom McKimbin, who struck his hole in 1. It's just his second ever event playing on the DP World Tour in the South African Open. Now I know you love to talk about your live golf and everything, but he's from the same golf course as someone called Rory McIlroy. You might have heard of him. He's done quite well recently. Said a few things about a few golf tours, but anyway, there you go. But anyway, from the same golf tour.
I hope, by the way, let me just clarify. I am a fan of the PGA Tour and European Tour as well. By the way, I'm also a fan of live golf too.
Yes.
I'm just a fan of golf.
Absolutely, and you're also a fan of Rory's as well. Anyway, that hole in 1 came on the 11th hole there, so well done to Tom. Right, finally though, let's leave the best story till last then, because this, not just 1 hole in 1, 2 hole in 1s on the same day on the same golf course. 12-year-old Alex Roberts, he hit a hole in 1 on the 8th hole at the Mendip Golf Club, and then repeated the feat on the 12th hole, so on the 550-yard 12th hole. So 2 hole in 1s on the same golf course. And also, I love this photo for lots of reasons, but his hat, right? Now, if you read his hat,
flag,
well, if you read his hat kind of thing, it might look a little bit dodgy, the wording there. Now, I can say that it isn't arseback.
It's like baseball or something.
It's Barsbakk. It's a golf club. I think it's a golf club over in Scandinavia somewhere. I think it might be Norway or Denmark or Sweden or somewhere like that. So he's obviously played his golf overseas as well. But well done to him. The Mendip is a golf course in Somerset. So really well done there.
Do you know what the odds on that are? Do you know what the odds on that are? 2 hole in ones?
Well, around about 40 million to 1. So not too bad.
Very long. Very long.
Very long.
Yeah.
Very long. Absolutely.
I don't know what they are. Just if anybody knows, comment below.
Yes. Now, it's something which I've said on a few occasions with the news in recent weeks. Not too many competitions to talk about because obviously this time of the year, there has been some, and we ought to mention as well. And this we'll go into a few more details perhaps a little bit later on. The next podcast, the last one of the year, we're going to be talking about winter golf. So we're going to be talking about competitions you can play over the winter, some of the things you can be doing over the winter. So we're going to be touching upon that subject. But that's for another podcast. That ends the news then for this week. Let's get on to the podcast this week then, because we're going to be covering college golf in the UK. Let's get our live guests on. So we've got England Golf Young Ambassadors Emily Furniss and Jen Myers. Ian, you're going to leave.
I'm going to bring him in. I'm going to leave you to it. I'm going to say bye because it's about time we spoke to some proper guests. I'm delighted to say we got Emily and Jen, real guests. So I'm gone.
Some intelligent people. We're lovely to meet some intelligent people. So, right. Good evening, ladies. How are we this evening?
I'm really good, thank you.
Good.
Yeah.
And you're okay, Emily?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Right. Okay. So let's get straight on with them. So we're talking about college golf in the UK. So Emily, you've been through this process. You went to university at Bournemouth, I understand. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
So just give us an idea of the reasons why you did that and what did you do at university?
So when I was looking at universities, I kind of looked at a few that were closer to home that had golf teams, that had kind of like a sport management, golf management degree, because that was kind of where I was hoping to take, my work and after uni. But I found that some of the local ones were a little bit too close. So I kind of chose somewhere that was like a couple hours drive. So it had all the things that I needed. That had a good golf team, good kind of course, well-respected course, as Matt kind of has already said. So those are the things I was looking for, and never looked back and enjoyed everything.
Right, we'll go into obviously more details throughout this podcast. Now, interesting that Emily mentioned there about trying to find one which is not quite on the doorstep, a couple of hours away. Now, Jenny, you live on the south coast. Ironically, one of the options that you're looking at is Bournemouth, where Emily went to. Now, the other one is a little bit more further north, shall we say? So
just a tad.
Just a tad. Where are you thinking about going then?
Stirling in Scotland.
Yes. So just give us, obviously you're in the stage now whereby you are looking to start, possibly next September. So you're in the process now of looking at the options. So how far down the road have you gone at this present moment in time?
So I'm quite far down. I've sent in my UCAS application. That was actually sent off today. I got the email through, which is quite scary because I can't change my mind now. But it's good. It's done. So.
Well, I'm hoping that you'll actually learn something from this. So I hope you don't change your mind on the back of what we have to say here. Yeah, absolutely. Right, now we have got some pre-recorded interviews, so we'll get into those straight away then. So we've got our Aspire to Be Academy of Sport Head of Performance, Jake Richardson. So that's the University of Warwick where he's based. Now, they deal with more the younger age group. So they deal with more 16, 17, 18-year-olds, which obviously is similar types of things that they're doing. So let's just hear from him, just find out exactly what Aspire to Be Academy of Sport is then. Here's Jake.
So Aspire to Be is a further education program. So we provide education, but also sport performance for a number of sports, one of them being golf. With that, it's combined with not only their education, which is a BTEC in sports coaching and development, but then also they will compete and train against other colleges around the region. So in our region, we have kind of like Hartbury's, we have BMET, King Edwards, and all sorts around the region. So it's really good, and it's trying to promote that junior golf. There's kind of a step up from junior golf just before you go into kind of the adult competition, and trying to help them promote, that there is ways and avenues in sport, within the golf system or even outside of the golf system. But it's trying to marry the two together, basically.
And marrying the two together, also that involves sport and also education as well. So just explain about how that works.
You're not just playing golf Monday to Friday. I mean, everybody would love that full time. But it's giving you an education. This BTEC is a well-regarded BTEC, and what that basically does is means, let's say, for instance, you want to go into golf management or you want to do something within sport. It gives you the tools in order to then, how the best way to describe it, gives you the tools to then progress throughout the world. And it's a qualification at the end of the day. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do something within sport or golf if you decide that you want to go off into a different direction. But it's making sure that it's 50-50. It's your performance and also your education as well. And if you start slacking in your education, then your performance on the golf course will slack as well. So we make sure that each go hand in hand at the same time, so you can't slack off one rather than the other.
What type of students are you looking to attract?
I would say there's kind of three key areas that we look for when we're trying to recruit students. One being obviously performance. So they've got to be, at a high level or performing at a high level, whether it's county, national level golfers. The second would be their education. So we want students that are self-driven. They want to get on with the work because it's a BTEC. There's no exams, so it's all kind of in their time. So they have to get the assignments in on time. But then also it's personality as well, which is a key one that we look at. Are they willing to learn not only in the classroom but also on the golf course? Personality with regards to how are they around other students, because they're going to be involved with other students, not only golfers but male and female footballers, basketballers. So there's a whole range of different personalities and experiences, and it's how those three merge into one. Because if let's say we have a fantastic golfer, but education is lacking and personality, they just, they're maybe arrogant or they don't want to be here and stuff, then we'd rather take somebody who's got a better attitude towards learning than somebody that may be, in the top percent. I think you've got to tick all three boxes in order to for us to look at you, basically.
So that's obviously Jake Richards from Aspire to Be talking about the process that when they're looking for students. Just going back to when you applied for it, Emily, obviously he talked about the golf and the education side of it and the kind of student they were looking for. Is that something which you were wary of when you were trying to get yourself into these colleges?
Yeah, I think it was. I kind of the places that I went to, I spoke to both kind of like the education and the course managers, but also like, the golf team organisers and people who I'd be part of the squads with, because I knew it would be important for me to gel with those people as well as keeping my grades up. So yeah, it definitely was. But it was kind of nice because where I am now, the guides kind of reminded me of my college, so I did as well. I did sports performance and excellence, so it's quite similar, really. And yeah, so it was just really good. Kind of reminded me a little bit of home, and yeah, everything kind of balanced nicely.
And when you heard that, Jen, and you heard what Jake was saying there about the kind of things which was going through his mind when he was looking at the students, is that something whereby you were wary of when you were applying, which has only been very recently?
Yeah, definitely. It was, you kind of have to find somewhere that you're going to do well in. You can't go somewhere you're going to be uncomfortable. So making sure that everything fits is definitely important.
And also, how much do you emphasize the golf side of it? How much do you emphasize the education side of it? Or is it trying to get the balance between the two?
It's definitely trying to find a balance. I'm more academic focused than I am my golf. I know that I wouldn't want to go on tour. It's something I love golf. I want to be a really good amateur, but I would never want to go on tour. So academics was always more important to me to get like a good career.
And was that similar with yourself, Emily? I know that you initially you were considering possibly going to the US, and I think you had a bit of an injury whereby that made it impossible. But was the golf side of it, was that more important than the education, or was it trying to find the balance like Jen was?
For me, after during my recovery, I really had to focus on my academics, and I realised that I'd never be pro, so I really did need to focus on that to find a career where I knew I could still enjoy myself. So I kind of wanted to go into something golf-wise, but I knew I had to work really hard to get there, and I know that hard work has actually resulted in me getting a job, so I know it's all paid off.
Yeah. Now, obviously, we'll go back to Jake and we'll just hear from him again here, because obviously Jen's just going through this process at the moment, and we're talking here almost a year ahead that you've had to start this process. So there's the question I actually asked Jake about, when does a college start looking for students? I know it's a slightly different age range that he's looking at, but let's hear what he had to say about when they do start looking for students.
We're trying to recruit and bring players in for the 2023. It would have been last summer just gone, because right now this period in
seem to have lost Jake there, but hopefully we'll come back to that interview a little bit later then. So, but when he was looking for students and things like that, is obviously he was looking at boys and girls. Is that something which, as obviously two girls, is that something whereby they're very keen on making sure that they're boys and girls on their course? Is that something which was important to you, Emily?
So my university were really keen on getting female golfers. It was unfortunately that in all of my years at uni, I was the only girl in the team, which was a shame. There was like social golfers, but to a competitive level. But I knew that kind of going in, it didn't faze me too much. I'm quite a tomboy anyway, so for me it wasn't really an issue. I got on well with everyone. But yeah, the university did push it quite a lot, and at one point they were even trying to encourage more females by offering actually like one-to-one coaches for all of the girls in the team, not just me, but it was to try and encourage others, to say that we're here to develop and support you as well, not just force you to play in competitions every week.
Yeah. And with yourself, Jen, I kind of come back to the question which was initially asked to Jake, is when they're looking to attract them. And obviously with yourself, when it is so far ahead, I mean, I know we joked about the fact that have you made the right decision or not, but obviously when it is a year ahead, you have to be absolutely 100% certain. And do you even have the doubts at the moment? Is that, or I don't know, you tell me.
Yeah, I definitely do. I like teams. I like being involved in a team. It doesn't matter if there's girls involved, if it's boys, that doesn't faze me. But I do always guess it. I always double look over it again and overthink it. So happen to do it this far ahead. It's something I'm not used to. I'm definitely a last minute person, but there we are.
Yeah, and obviously let's talk about the two options which you're considering then. So obviously Bournemouth is the one which Emily went to, and ironically enough, the other one, Stirling, is one which you thought about as well, Emily, as well. So although you didn't go actually and look at it, you have been and looked at Stirling, haven't you, Jen? So what did you find when you went there?
So Stirling had on-campus facilities. They had like a AstroTurf green, like a chipping range, that kind of thing. So that was really handy. But in terms of how close their golf course was, it wasn't as close as Bournemouth's. So it's definitely trying to weigh up what would work better when I'm alone and I don't have my parents driving me everywhere, which is a big factor.
And you obviously, you didn't go to Stirling, but you went to Bournemouth. What kind of facilities were there? Presumably you have been there as well, Jen. You have actually looked at it. But what kind of facilities will Jen get if she goes to Bournemouth?
Well, to be honest, Bournemouth University have really good links with quite a few different local courses and golf centres, kind of ranging in distance from kind of the campus, like the main campus. Funnily enough, I actually work at one of the clubs we have links with, which is where the first team play. So yeah, that's my career has resulted in the uni having those links. But I mean, you can range from having really good kind of grass driving ranges in the summer at one club to amazing chipping and putting facilities at another. I don't know if I should be telling you this, but unlimited golf balls at one of them as well. So that was really handy.
Slide that one in there.
So I must admit, in my first year especially, I made the most of that before kind of COVID hit. and I'd managed to drop my handicap from 6 to 2. So it really did kind of help having all of those facilities quite close, and you can get to everywhere by bus. I've done it.
And did you, obviously, Jen's making the decision at the moment, you did obviously consider going to Stirling. Was there any particular reason why you didn't go north of the border and stay south, or what was your reasoning then?
One was a more serious one, and the other one was just because I don't like the cold.
Okay, right.
So the serious one was, well, it was close at home, but also, like you said, the golf course was a lot closer. So when I didn't have my car, especially like in halls, it's quite difficult to get somewhere, more than a 25-minute hour's walk, especially when you're like carrying golf clubs, golf trolley, and you've got to carry all your waterproofs and the additional luggage. It would have just been a little bit more challenging getting. So yeah, it was definitely a factor that I chose Bournemouth.
And obviously, you are making this decision, Jen. I mean, we can joke about being colder up north and everything like that. But is there a factor involved in the decision you may or may not make?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
And is that a golfing decision? Is that because obviously you will be going to the home of golf, so you know that you're going to get it's going to be a place whereby it's not going to be a problem playing golf, because you know that it's a place whereby they're used to it, kind of thing. But at the same time, it is so many degrees colder, kind of thing.
And I live down south, so I'm not used to the cold. So
yeah,
it's going to be a bit of a change. It's definitely a factor. It's kind of hitting a bit deeper considering it's winter now, and I'm really realizing how cold it is down here. So how cold it might be up there. It's definitely going to be a factor. I hate cold weather, so
yeah. And now I don't know whether we'll be able to get. I don't know if Ian can pull up one of the interviews with Jake Richardson. Let's hope we can. If we try here, because he does talk about how you go about applying. So let's just hear from Jake then, and see if we can get the interview back up.
We're trying to recruit, bring players in for the 2023. It would have been last summer just gone, because right now, this period in time, compared to like football or basketball, there is no real competitions going on because of the weather outside. That's one of the drawbacks. It's a lot to do with the weather. But also, if we get wind of, players in the junior golf kind of area, or maybe they're under 15s or under 14s, we can start looking at them and kind of introduce them to the idea of that this could be a possible pathway. And it also gives them a goal at the end of it to aim for. I think it's always good if they say, oh yeah, I want to be on this program in year, what would that be, 9, and then come year 11, they know they've got to work hard on their GCSEs, because at the end of the day, if they don't get their GCSE grades, they can't come onto the course. It doesn't matter how good of a golfer you are, you have to get the grades, and those GCSEs are not only important to get onto our course, but to get on with life in general. So we really try and emphasize that.
It's also key as well to point out that this is aimed at boys and girls, isn't it?
Yeah, so we have a boys and girls program, and we want to promote both. We really want to encourage, especially on the female golfer side. I feel, people or female golfers may not have the same idea that this could be an option for them as well. But we have 2 female golfers on program, and we're definitely looking to kind of promote female golf and female sport in general, and trying to kind of support them just as much as we do with the male, because I would say they're along the same lines.
And long term, obviously, this is the age 16 to 18. What are those students? What are they looking to gain out of this and move into the career path what are they looking for?
So I think there's a load of different pathways they can kind of go down. I think it depending on some students that we have come in, they start off with and they don't really know what they want to do, and it's our kind of job to kind of help them discover what those pathways are, whether it's going down kind of the playing route. So if they're performing highly, we'll support them with that and we'll help them support with their work. If it's going down the coaching route, we can kind of help them with that, speaking to coaches, guiding them in the right direction to get their kind of right qualifications. or if it's even something to do academically, we can kind of guide them in that route as well. So we have partnerships with like American scholarship companies that have great connections out there. So American, the university system is a major, it's a big baller when it comes to that region. So we can help them with that way. Or even if it's after the 2 years, they've got their BTEC qualification and they want to go into a working environment, then we're more than happy to kind of support them with that. Because if either any of those kind of destinations are a positive destination for us, whether it's within sport, without sport, as long as they're kind of going into something and progressing, then that's kind of our main goal for these students. Is kind of, we are the bridge from kind of that school life into that adult life and preparing them the best we can.
I mean, you mentioned US college golf. We've done a podcast on US college golf, and obviously that's a massive step for youngsters to go over to America. And there are some which make a success of it. There are some which it's a little bit too daunting. So the kind of courses you provide is it's almost like a perfect step, isn't it, onto those types of things?
Yeah, definitely. I would definitely say with us, it's like I say, it's a stepping stone, and it's nicely kind of guides you into that academic life where you go from school, which is structured from 9 o'clock till 3:30, 4 o'clock, and you know where you've got to be. Whereas in the college, it's a little bit more relaxed, but you still have to be in at certain times. And then when you come to kind of that college or university life, it's kind of, if you don't get the work done, you're not going to have your professors chasing after you. You'll just fail at the end of the day. So it kind of gives them the independence that they need to, prepare them the best they can. And I think as you get older as well, I think you need to understand and learn, not everything's going to be set out for you in a schedule. It's got to be, you've got to make your decisions for you at the end of the day. And that's what kind of we try and guide them as best we can.
So obviously that's Jake talking about his college and the application process that they go through and things like that. I just ask both of you as well. Obviously with the college course that they're doing is 16, 17, 18. So effectively it's the A levels. Is there any reason why you didn't do that when you were that age, Emily? And you waited until you got to university before you went down that college golf route. Is there any reason why you didn't do it at a younger age?
Yeah, so I actually originally wanted to do some kind of mechanical engineering, material science, making golf clubs kind of route. But I was going to an open day actually at Birmingham University and just happened to walk past the golf centre and was like, oh, I'm just going to go in there and have a look. And it was actually only then, probably when I was about 17, so I'd already done 1 year of AS levels and changed my mind. And my parents at the time were kind of walking around like this, going, oh gosh, she's taken a year, and she's taken a step back a year, and she's done BTEC. But at the moment I feel like it's the best thing I could have done, because they opened my eyes to so many opportunities in golf and sport that I hadn't thought of. After wanting to play golf for so long and not being able to do it due to multiple surgeries, it really did open my eyes, and that was kind of why I came into it a bit later than probably others.
Is there any reason why you didn't go down this route at the age of 16 or 15, 16 with yourself, Jen, or not?
The only reason really is because my closest college that offers that kind of golfing and team base is quite far away, it's about an hour away, and because I'd be getting there by public transport, it was just going to be too much for a day-to-day basis.
Would you have liked to have done it at that age then?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
So the fact that you've having to wait a couple of years, presumably you're doing A levels at the moment, is that correct?
I'm also doing a BTEC.
Oh, okay. So eventually you'll get to that stage, and obviously, right. Let's just hear the last part of the interview then with Jake about the Aspire to Be Academy. Then exactly how do people apply to it? Then let's just hear exactly how people do that.
One of the key things is making sure that they are in the local area in the transport route. So we're based at the University of Warwick. So with that, it means transport routes are really good for buses. So in that local area. We practice at the Warwickshire Golf Club, which is a lovely course, which is really good. And if parents or students want to apply, if they go onto our website, Aspire to Be golf.co.uk. You can click on the college and then go on to golf, and then there'll be an option to kind of register your interest, but also book a discovery session, which basically means you'll book in either over Zoom or come in person. We'll kind of show you around the campus, so to speak, and kind of give you more information about what the program is all about. And also, it's good to learn what the student and parents are all about as well. So it's a good to get that one-to-one, face-to-face interaction.
You're almost a year in advance that you're looking at students. Is there almost like a cut-off date?
I would say the earlier the better. So let's say there's somebody out there watching this podcast right now that wants to get involved and thinking, oh, this sounds good. If this is an option for you, I would say book in a one-to-one, see what it's all about, and then if your grades are going well, there's only so many things we can predict with predicted grades and stuff. But if we are confident that you're going to get those grades, we would be more, and your scores and you're high performing at golf, we would love to kind of get the process started earlier than later. But I would say probably the cut-off date for, let's say, for our 2023 recruitment would be probably the end of April, May time. So then we can just get things in process with regards to like kit, getting them enrolled and all that type of things as well.
And as far as the course is concerned and the competitive golf that they play, you play against different colleges as well, don't you? So there's that competitive element that they have during the time.
Yeah. So what they'll do, so that right now they'll have practice on a Tuesday and a Thursday morning for 3 hours at the Warwickshire with our golf coach. And then on a Wednesday, they will have their competitions. So normally the competition starts in September, and then they'll have a break from, I believe it's the end of November time, so around about now, until about February time. So there's that period of the winter period when, golf courses are very hard to kind of play on. But then throughout, there'll be kind of weekly or bi-weekly matches or competitions on those Wednesdays, where we'll go to different golf clubs, experience those different golf clubs, and then you represent the college at that level. But then we can also support with, maybe it's like Warwickshire school competitions and things like that.
And also the counties as well, because they're the ones who will know who the better players are in the county. Also the better characters, which you mentioned as well. So do you work alongside them as well, just to make sure that you're getting what you feel as if the right people come into your course?
Yeah, I think the key is when we're kind of looking at new students to bring in, is trying to get as much information as we can before they come through the door in September. So we will do our research along many different factors. So whether it's with their actual club, their coaches that they work with the county, their schools, references that they're given. All these things will come into factors when we're making the decisions at the end of the day. So we can get a better picture of what the type of golfer, not only how they perform, but also kind of what are they like around other students or golfers, what are they like around coaches and all that as well.
So that's Jake talking about how he looks and the kind of research, if you like, that he does into trying to get the right students to his course. Who did you speak to, Emily, and also Jen as well, we'll come to, but Emily, first of all, who did you speak to get advice about where the best places were to go to, or did you literally rely on your own information about what you saw yourself?
So I spoke to my college a little bit, but obviously they were a rugby college, because I went to Worcester, which is quite closely linked with the rugby club, so it wasn't particularly golf focused. But luckily at my golf club, there were actually a few people working who went to different universities that had golf management or sport management degrees. And I kind of spoke to them a little bit and said, well, how did you find yours? And that kind of gave me a short list that I kind of wanted to look at, alongside looking at the lists myself and just literally scrolling through UCAS for hours trying to find all the golf degrees that I could. And then I ended up actually driving to most of them. Sterling was the one that I didn't go to, because it was quite a long way away. At the time I was doing a lot of golf for like the England under 16 development and 18 development, so I didn't really have much time on my hands because I was competing quite a lot. But yeah, so it was more kind of like just interacting with others and my own research rather than my college giving me advice.
I will come to you in a second, Jeremy. I just wanted to ask you a specific question on that. Did you talk to other golfers then, or other golfers who were similar standard to yourself, and find out what they had to say?
I did, and I also spoke to, so some of the people at my golf club were kind of playing at a ridiculously good level, kind of like plus figures, and seeing where they went, because I wanted to improve my golf while I was at uni, and I kind of spoke to them to see how they progressed, what kind of training they got, because it was quite recent, so they'd only left the universities about 5-6 years ago. So it was quite close. So I got to see roughly what they were doing, and that probably helped me more than anything else, because I knew their personalities and I got on well with them. So I figured if they got on well there, then I would as well the rest of the work ethics and stuff as well.
Now, obviously, you're a young ambassador, the same with yourself, Jen. I don't know whether you spoke to Emily about this before this podcast, but who have you spoke to, and which advice have you got from different people about what kind of options that you might do?
So similar to Emily, my college doesn't really do anything to do with golf. So I haven't asked them. If I was to ask them, I'm sure they would have done research into it for me. But I mainly relied on people in my county who also play golf. I find talking to them is really helpful, because we all got along at county match week and at training. So knowing that they went somewhere that they did well was really important. And then, like Emily said, just looking up universities that have golf courses and like do something with a team. But I found it hard trying to find a university that does golf and the course you want. That's what I found like the hardest to try and find.
I mean, we're going to hear from Chris Hanson, who's the 2020 ProTour co-founder. He went to college at Myerscough College, and let's just hear about his story about how he got started in golf and how he went to college, and then we'll get your take on what he had to say. Let's hear from Chris now.
I was a member at Crossing Heath Golf Club when I was like 3 years old. My dad was a scratch golfer. Mum was a 12, 13 handicapper. I've got some half brothers who also played, and it was just a natural progression from playing golf with my family and playing Sunday football. And it got to a point where it was Sunday Junior League, Sunday football or Sunday golf. And there was never any pressure to go into golf, but I think naturally I just fell into it just through the environment I was in. So football stopped and golf continued. And just went through high school, and then got to the age of 16 and got the opportunity found the opportunity. It was quite new then in the golfing world to go to Myerscough College and study there. So from 16, moved away from home, did 2 years doing the National Diploma in Golf Studies at Myerscough. And then stayed on for 2 more years and did the Higher National, a 2-year degree in golf and leisure management. But I didn't do the final top-up year. I ended up turning pro and playing full-time then. So from that, then, sorry, I had 15 years playing full-time through all the different leagues of golf, mini tours, Euro Pro, Challenge Tour, played in the Open, played Euro Pro, played European Tour for nearly 100 events. And then I then stopped playing with COVID and ended up coaching for the last 3 years.
So I saw this tweet with yourself. I'll gloss over the fact that you were talking on a different podcast when you put this tweet out, kind of thing. But you said about how important that your time at college was to your career. So just explain why that was the case.
Yeah, so I think for me personally, at 16 years old, if I had just gone to it was at Huddersfield New College, I probably would have gone to and done maybe a sports course, but the access to play golf wouldn't have been the same. Obviously, Myerscough, I was living on site. There was a golf course on site. The facilities were on site. I was playing golf every single day, practicing every single day with groups of golfers. Whereas for me, the distractions or not having the accessibility at home, I'd have to rely on parents to take me to the golf club. Dark nights, you couldn't do it through the winter. Whereas at college, you were there all the time. You're doing your lectures and your studies, but you had, if you wanted to make use of the time you had available, it was there to be taken. And
you mentioned there the fact that in those days it wasn't something which was well known, really, because to go to college and play golf, particularly in this country back then, was completely alien. So was it? Did you feel it was a bit of a risk at the time?
No, not really. No, it just felt. I think there was a college, Morley Hayes. I think we played them in a college match once. I think they were doing something similar. But no, not a risk at all. I enjoyed playing golf, and I wasn't particularly that academic either. And doing golf studies sounded pretty good. We went to an open day, and I saw a few friends who I knew, and a friend from high school came as well. He joined at the same time as me, so I guess I wasn't going there on my own, not knowing anybody. And yeah, the facilities at the time were great, and they're a lot better now. But yeah, it was an absolute no-brainer for me at that age.
You're the example, if you like, or one of the examples of someone who has gone through that system and then gone on to play at a higher level. How much did you actually learn when you were there about how to progress as a golfer and be a better golfer?
I would say quite a lot, really. I think we were really fortunate, and Maesco, there's a tutor there, and it'd be worth speaking to him, a guy called Rick Daniels. So Rick Daniels was a student there before he ended up working there, and he's been there maybe 20 years now. And if it wasn't for sort of the way he inspires the students and runs the college, and it was the first year I started, he launched the Prospects Golf Tour, and we used to play 20 events throughout the academic year around the country and travel on a coach and play tournaments and have an order of merit. And obviously then you have college matches, and I was just very competitive. Always playing with friends in the morning, just always being competitive. So I think I learned a lot from that. We had coaches at the golf course, so there's a level of coaching daily if you wanted it. And I worked for a long time with a guy called Drew Wallace, who was a psychologist. So I had access to that at a young age, and that structure of practicing and yeah, I wouldn't have had that if I was at the new college in Huddersfield. I would have still been seeing my golf coach, who was local to me, but I don't know, maybe every 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, and just practicing on my own, or just playing the odd game with my parents on a weekend. That during the week would have been maybe a visit to the driving range on an evening, but again, relying on parents to do that is difficult, isn't it?
So that's Chris Hanson, who's the 2020 Pro Tour co-founder. He went to Maesco College. Now, I'll come to you first of all, Jen, because you said that the playing side of it, this going on to become a professional golfer, is not something which you necessarily is interested in. But having said that, you were still going to be going on to a golf university course kind of thing. So why are you still doing the golf side of it, if you see what I mean?
I love golf. I love competitive golf. I don't want to go on tour because it's something I've never really wanted to do. I'd love to be a good amateur. I'd like being it so that no one knows who you are, kind of. You're in like your own little amateur bubble, so you can still do the competitive stuff. But it means that if I want to have a completely separate career, I can.
I'll give you an example here, because obviously we did the podcast earlier in the year with Megan McLaren. Now Megan, who I've known from a very young age, and I'd say that as a young golfer, she was a good golfer, probably very similar to both Emily and yourself. But I wouldn't say that she was an exceptional golfer. But when she went away to college, okay, that was over in the US, but her results were so good eventually that it almost became inevitable that she was going to become a tour golfer. So is it something you're completely ruling out? Because if you do what Chris done and obviously becomes a very, very good golfer, it may become, hold on a second here, actually I can make a living out of doing this.
It's definitely still an option. I hate having things set in stone, so if it gets to the point where, it's a possibility, I'd give it a chance, definitely.
And with yourself, Emily, was it more a case of just the fitness side of it meant that it was almost impossible to do that? Was that a fair comment?
It was, yeah, because to this day, I'm still struggling a little bit, and I'm still kind of I guess I'm out of the rehab stage, but there are still issues where, some days with my knee, I can't even walk 18 holes. So trying to get those multi-day competitions, it's just completely counts me out, which makes me kind of sad. But at the same time, I now get to enjoy watching the golf on the weekends where I would have been playing. So.
But when you look back at your time at university, obviously you did have the fitness issues then. But how much did you feel did you improve as a golfer even though you had those issues while you were there?
Yeah, I did. So actually in my first year especially, which is obviously before COVID, because I'm one of the COVID uni students,
Okay, yeah.
I got my handicap by 4 points, where we were going to the driving range actually like probably 3 times a week. We played on a Wednesday, and because I've made some friends in the golf group, we go, oh, do you fancy golf at the weekend as well? So we'd be playing so much where I get into that routine, and it really did help. We had the offer of strength and conditioning coaching, which probably didn't use as much as I should have at the time. But as a uni student, fresher, I probably had different priorities. But it was definitely improved my golf. And yeah, I was happier for it as well because I was playing more consistently.
Yeah. Now we're going to hear the last part of the interview with Chris Hanson, and this is where he starts talking about how the business side of his career has benefited from his time at golf college. So let's hear from Chris about how he feels it has benefited him in the long run.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we did like some of our modules. What we did were around event management, and each like students will be put into groups, and you'd have to run your own event. We'd run a prospect tour event, or we'd run a trip to Penrith for the day, or we'd host our own little mini Ryder Cup match on campus, and yeah, absolutely. I think it was golf studies, so everything was related back to some part of the industry or the game, and I was. It might be a really nice podcast to listen to. So Rick Shields did a podcast 2 weeks ago with Rick Daniels, who's the man I'm talking about Myerscough College, and like Rick says, like from Myerscough College, wherever they go every year, the students they find someone who has been to Myerscough College wherever they are in the world, at a golf championship, at a European Tour event, at an R&A event, out in Dubai, out in America. There are students everywhere from Myerscough College, and it's incredible. It's a breeding ground, and I think it used to always be one of the head people at it was De Vere Hotels at the time, and he would come to Rick Daniels and say, "How many students have you got? Any good ones I can employ?" And it was it is a special place. It really is.
If there's a student watching this, let's say a 15, 16, even 17, 18-year-old, what would your advice to be them if they're considering going down that route of not going to the college in the US, but actually going to the UK?
Everyone is there's an individual aspect to everyone, isn't there? That where they live, if they're at a really good golf course, if like they're in a position where they can practice at home or something, like you might not need as much. You might not need it as much, but then again, it might be brilliant for them. I'd looked into America briefly when I was kind of thinking about doing something a bit later down the line, but I was never low enough as a golfer really to get involved in one of these scholarships. Really, I don't think they're maybe at a smaller college, but I think I don't know. I think my advice would be go and have a look. Like go to an open day and meet the other students and see the facility. And I think that'd probably what would kind of blow you away. Like, I think if you're wanting to be serious at golf, and we'll talk about winter golf at some point, I'm sure, but like we're limited, aren't we, in the UK? So to have an indoor studio with nets and trackmans and an indoor short game area and the golf course on site when the weather is good, it's if you're keen to play golf and want to progress, then it's brilliant. And if you don't make it, it's a box ticked, and some other opportunities will surely arise.
As you can appreciate at the moment, with what everyone's going through with the crisis, with the energy crisis, things like that, it should be able to save them a little bit of money by basing themselves in this country as opposed to spending a lot of money going in the UK, so going over to the US rather. So there is that which can come into the factor as well, isn't there?
Massively, yeah. My parents, it was a tough thing to afford to do for us, but let's say further education, you don't pay for education from 16 to 18. You had to pay to live on site, which included your food. You could do 5 days or 7 days a week. But a lot of students would travel in. If they were within probably half an hour, a lot of students would travel in. But I think for me, I think I was fortunate that a friend travelled with me, so we shared a room. So it maybe wasn't as daunting as it might be for some people. But my best friends in life are 5 people from that college. They're the only people I speak to. Like we speak all the time. We meet up, and it's from that 16 to 18 years old time of our life. Yeah, brilliant.
Sounds like he had a great time at college when he was there. So just specifically then talking about he's talking as well about, obviously he's gone on to co-found the 2020 tour. So that's not necessarily the playing side of it, and also he's coaching as well. I'll go to you first then, Jen, because obviously you're looking to do this. If you're not going to become a player, then what kind of thing would you like to develop and stay in the golf industry? What would you like to do?
So I'm looking into golf broadcast journalism.
Okay.
So
you
being good at golf would help.
So how do you think by going to college is going to help that then?
I want to get a good degree, so I'm looking at the multimedia sports journalism course at Bournemouth and then the media and film course at Stirling. But I want to keep my golf going, and I think being good at the sport you want to specialise in a career is important because it shows that you have the knowledge of it.
And with yourself, Emily, what was your thinking as well?
So I originally was doing like events and stuff because I started volunteering when I couldn't play, and I worked a lot in the event side, doing the Young Ambassador program. I found my love for events, but actually as I kind of came through my degree, I found other areas. So now I work as in golf operations at a golf club, and I'm actually in line to do a kind of further qualification in golf club management. So it really did kind of open my eyes to the different areas, and I do still have a love of events though, so it's worked quite nicely because we're hosting an RNA Open Qualifier. So, yeah.
So when you were at college then, is that the kind of thing which, as you were going along, you were thinking, actually, this is something which I would prefer to do?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we did a consultancy project for the Golf Foundation, and there were aspects of that I really enjoyed, and there were some aspects that not so much, as you'll find in everything you do. And I actually picked up on these certain areas I really enjoyed, and if this job came up, and it was all of the areas that I enjoyed from that project, and the types of communications, working with certain types of people. So yeah, it definitely kind of changed how I viewed it. And
obviously this podcast is about college golf in the UK and everything, but I'll ask you, Jen, about this. You became a young ambassador. Why did you become a young ambassador? Did you feel that this would help you to go on and possibly get the career in the golf industry you'd like?
Yeah, I had a couple of friends who were already young ambassadors from my county, and they were telling me how great it was and how many opportunities they've been given to do things that they were interested in. So I knew that if I was to become a young ambassador, it would present those opportunities that could help me, like this, for example.
Have you ever done anything? I mean, you say you like to get into the media and things like that. What kind of stuff have you done? How can you get the opportunity to do that?
So I'm currently doing a BTEC in film and TV production. So I've done music videos. At the moment, I'm doing a multi-camera production, and you can choose whatever you want to do. So I'm doing like a highlights show, and I'm going to do it on the second day of the Solheim Cup. That is currently all my experience. And then this. So it's quite hard, I found, trying to get that experience. I think I'll find it through college courses and uni courses.
I mean, you're obviously, you've been through university degree, Emily. Is for someone like Jen who's looking to do that, is when you're in those positions and you get the opportunity to talk to your golf coach, your lecturers, your things like that, is how much help can they give you, pointing you in the direction you may want, as you did, you might have to change direction. How much help did you get from the people at the university?
I honestly cannot praise my lecturers enough. And actually one in particular, weirdly enough, finance, which is completely out there, but actually he helped me probably more than any of my other, lecturers. He sat down with me because I've got slow processing speed, so I learn in a slightly different way. Just the little support that you get in that way. But then he would actually sit with me, and when I had my job interview, he sat with me and helped me prepare for my job interview. So yeah, they're so supportive, and if you ask them, if you work hard, they will help you like as much as they can, because they know that you're putting in as much effort as they're putting into you. And it definitely makes a difference. But yeah, they really do kind of encourage you and help you in as many ways as they can to get into the career you want.
And going back to the start of this podcast, and we were talking about the process of trying to apply and things like that. And obviously, Jen, I know you literally just put your application in now, kind of thing. But were those questions that you were asking Emily there at the very start, whereby you were trying to get a gauge of feeling of, are these the kind of people who can help me at a later date? Sorry, that was a question to Emily. Sorry, I should say.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. I mean, maybe not quite to the extent that I actually received in the end, but it was on my radar. It was looking at the areas that I wanted to go into, and then I spoke to kind of those lecturers when I first started. But as I said, as I went through the course, it changed, and they were still just as helpful as I decided. I didn't want to go one route, or felt the other route was better. But yeah, it was definitely on my radar when I started.
And obviously with you, Jen, I mean, you need to speak to some journalists more often, and people who might know about how to get into the media industry. I mean, obviously you've gone down the golf route. You're trying to go that. Have you actually spoken to people within the media industry as well?
Yeah, so I have spoken to a few people, not as many as I probably should have done, but I have done a few.
And which area are you looking at? Are you looking at radio, TV, social media? Are you looking at newspapers, magazines, or could it be the whole thing?
So I'm more interested in TV because I love cameras, editing, lighting, everything to do with TVs. I just love being on set. But podcasts I enjoy as well because I like talking, but that kind of thing. I'm not very good at writing, so I'm pretty sure I'd avoid magazines and newspapers.
Okay, all right. Well, we might get Ian back up on screen. Obviously, Ian knows his media. He's obviously does his TV productions and things like that. You see, so perhaps he might be able to. Perhaps you might be able to help Jen get into the industry. And who knows?
I'll tell you what. We always want people to come join us out. We've got some big news coming up. I can't reveal it yet. I'm under embargo, but we've got some big news for 2023, of course. So, Jen, we'll have a chat.
Perfect.
Right, now, obviously, this pretty much wraps up our podcast. We've been covering college golf in the UK. Really appreciate Emily and Jen coming on the show and obviously giving their opinions of the process that Emily's been through, the process that you're going through at the moment, Jen. Big thanks as well for Chris Hanson as well. Chris will be back on the next podcast as well, because we've got some interviews with him talking about winter golf, and that will be the next podcast. We're going to get another England golf ambassador coming on for the next podcast. That's on Wednesday, the 21st of December. Then we're going to have a little bit of a Christmas break, and then we'll be into the new year. We'll be looking at lots of different subjects in the new year. Also, massive thanks as well to Jake Richards from Aspire to Be Academy of Sport from the University of Warwickshire. And massive thanks to Ian as well for looking after us, even though his internet has been as bad as mine has been.
Honestly, I don't know what's going on tonight. I'm sorry, guys. It's normally you, Steve. It's normally you. But all right in there tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, look, we've managed to get through it all. So I really appreciate your time and everything. And I hope everyone has a good evening. And we will catch up with you soon. Thanks very much.
Bye, everyone.